consider liking and subscribing for more Boston sports content.
I got the Boston Celtics going to the finals.
I got them winning the West.
It's time to represent your city. Put your hands up. Cali, you know we do it for Boston. Hey, ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah, hey, can't nobody do it like Boston. Where the legends get made, where the banners get raised, bright lights, big stage. Boston. All the fire we bring in a city full of rings, it's a beautiful thing out in Boston. And you ain't hard like that. You don't put it on the line with your squad like that. That's right, Boston. All we do is win like cigars in the gym, and we at it again to say, Beantown, what's up? What's up? 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 Feel the energy shift, now we jumping at the gym. Represent, showing out how we ball above the rim. Larry Legend, 86, to the truth in 08. Cement your name with the all-time greats. Till banner 18 in the Raptors. Celtic green, only green that matters. It's about that time. Ain't another city that's louder than mine. Always gonna shine with the game on the line. What you think was gonna happen, man? That's how we do it in Boston. Ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah. Can't nobody do it like Boston.
All right, this is episode 21 of Dynasty Proud. Welcome in. I am, my name is Ryan. I'm at 19 Loading on Twitter, and I'm here with my guy Alex, and he is at AlexZachary305. This is not the first episode of the show, but it is my first episode. So first, I just wanted to take a second to say that I'm super excited to be here. I'm pumped to be joining the team at BSEN, and shout out to the RIT and everybody else who's already involved. And Alex, thanks for letting me crash the party. This is definitely going to be fun. And we are recording immediately after Team USA just won an absolute thriller against Serbia. That was a wild game, which we can get into in a minute as well. And I haven't been here, but obviously it's been a while for you since the last episode. And the Celtics won their 18th championship back on June 17th, almost 2 months ago now. So Alex, what was your immediate reaction to the finals? And then now that we've had some time to digest, what are your thoughts on last season as a whole?
Well, first I want to say welcome to the team, Ryan. We're happy to have you here. Looking forward to, this journey for the next Celtics season, trying to go back to back. My immediate reaction was jubilation as I was at Big Night Live attached to the TD Garden celebrating. It was a fun-filled week, had the parade and everything. So it's been a great summer. We, got everybody signed long-term. The team's locked in. We look like, we could be set up for a dynasty right here. A lot of news with the Celtics, and it's pretty much all good news. So, because you see a lot of teams after they win the title, pieces leave. We kept literally like everybody, like down the line, down the entire roster. The only one we're waiting on is Brissett. He may be, want more playing time elsewhere. But other than that, how often do you see that you just get to bring the entire team back? So it definitely bodes well for us going forward with the continuity. And now we already have, the championship prowess under us. So you think about how big that could be for someone like Tatum, who may even have added motivation now, given, some of the recent transgressions with Team USA.
Yeah, absolutely. The Celtics are set up better than any team that I can remember, probably since the Warriors, or, I don't know, back to the 08 Celtics, or I don't know how far back you want to go, but I can't remember a team that was this well set up to go on another run. Just going back and thinking about it, in the immediate aftermath, as I thought about it more, the 2024 championship meant more to me than 2008 as a fan. And I don't know why, but I think it was just because there was so much doubt. There were so many people saying Jaylen Brown doesn't have a left hand. Jason Tatum's not that guy. Just all those things they were everywhere. And maybe it's also just because I'm an adult now. I wasn't that old in 2008. I was 11 years old or whatever it was at the time. So I don't know. The other thing is, I know this might sound crazy, but I thought the Pacers series was more exciting. I had way more fun watching that series than I did the finals. I don't know about you.
So to work my way back there, the Pacers series I think was the most stressful out of anybody. I'd say the Heat series for about a game after game 2, just because you start getting flashbacks and PTSD to the past years, and then everyone starts talking really loud. But like that series for me was never in jeopardy, but people were talking. The Cavs series, again, that was never in jeopardy. You know, we had our game 2 woes, but the Pacers series, I mean, game 1, we looked lost. Like, and then, you know, the defense at the end, there was a lot of, you could see the experience level between us and Indiana, a team that's been there before and a team that hasn't, with the late game execution on both ends of the floor. That was a stressful series. 3 of those games came right down to the end. And then game 3 and game 4 were almost carbon copies of each other, where we just kind of took it at the end. You know, it was a veteran, experienced team that like knew how to handle those moments. But yeah, it's great to see them, because all we heard all year was that like, oh, you know, well, this is actually bad for them. They're winning all these games in blowouts, because what are they going to do when it gets to a close game? And then, of course, the media swung back the other way. You know, Stephen A. Smith was like, I'm so disappointed in the Celtics as they're continuing to win in the Pacer series, because they weren't winning by enough. Like, you got to have it both ways, I guess. But this one meant more to me for many reasons. Now, I was a little older than you in 08. I was 21. So that was the first Celtics championship I had gotten to see in my lifetime. But when that big 3 came together, they was the new team that came together. Yeah, everyone just like, it was like the first big 3. So everyone had high expectations for them, but it wasn't kind of years building up to that, you know, like, yeah, for the players themselves, like Pierce, KG, Ray Allen, like they were veterans that were ready to win, and they came together for that. But for me personally, especially, you know, living down in Miami most of the last 15 years since 08, and having those battles with the Heat and then dealing with it from the fan base here, like personally, this meant a lot. It meant validation for Jason Tatum, for Jaylen Brown, for this team that we assembled that was so close for so long. And then all year long, when we're just kicking the crap out of everybody, and then you had, you know, the naysayers, the Heat fans, the Celtics haters, they're like, oh, well, they're just, you know, spewing the same nonsense. Oh, they'll choke at the end. Oh, Tatum's going to choke, all that stuff. And then, of course, now that we win it all, they're like, oh, Mickey Mouse path. Like, it just, you can't win, but all you can do is win. And that's what the Celtics did. And, yeah, as we referenced, they're ready to go again. Like the whole team's coming back, and these aren't guys at the end of their careers. You know, I mean, yeah, Horford is, and Drew Holiday maybe at the end of his prime, but everybody else is under 30. They're signed long term. They're either just getting in their prime or they've been in their prime. Like this team looks really primed to win back to back, maybe 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4. I mean, injuries aside, knock on wood, like there's no reason they can't do that. Now Mazzulla, you know, we're going to talk about him as well. The confidence isn't going to give him, you know, going forward as well, because a lot of people questioned him in the past, like, oh, is he ready for this moment? He proved he clearly is.
Yeah, so on the Mazzulla thing, I was super impressed just with his composure. And I just kind of love that he flipped the script on like the timeout thing specifically. In this postseason, I thought, at least in my mind's eye, like he almost had a quick trigger with the timeouts. And people used to say he was going to be a liability and that he was going to cost them games. And in 2023, there obviously were things that he could have done better, but I feel like those issues are completely gone. And one of the questions I was going to ask you was, do you think there's any room left to doubt him, or, you know, is the door closed on that? Is he set as the coach, or do you think he still needs to prove anything?
Well, I think he's set as the coach for the next few years minimum. I mean, obviously, if something, you know, God forbid, like injuries, if like we go home in the first round the next 2-3 years, like, you know how things go in the NBA. I mean, like Budenholzer won a title with the Bucks. They lose in the second round the next year, the first round the next year, and then he's gone. That may have not been the right personnel decision, and you've seen kind of the coaching carousel they've had in Milwaukee since. But I think he has the same runway as his team, which is like 3-4 years. So short of like I said, losing in the first round and then missing the playoff, like something that's not even fathomable, I can't see how he loses this job. And it's not like we're, you know, the Charlotte Hornets or something like that, where it's like, okay, well, he's over exceeding expectations. He's going to get a better offer. What's the better situation? He's in it right now, you know, and he's from the New England area. So I think he's the coach. I think the players buy into him. They believe in him. They like him. They'll call him like a psycho, like the way he gets the most out of them. I think he's the right coach for this team. Like, I think going to Ime when they had him, I think he helped the growth a lot of like a Tatum and a Brown. But I think Mazzulla was the right next coach to be able to empower them. And I think he's the coach for the foreseeable future. So I think he has proved the doubters wrong. At the end of the day, it's the players on the floor making, you know, he can have the best X's and O's. It's the players up to execute and to buy into the system, and they clearly do.
No doubt. Yeah, I think it would take something really extreme for him to be in any kind of situation where his job would be on the line. I mean, there would need
Sure,
to
if
be
he
some type
pulls the
of,
same stuff that Ime was doing, starts,
yeah.
having
I mean,
transgressions with the office.
yeah, there would need to be some type of insane locker room drama, or they would just need to be like massively underperforming. And even then, like, I don't know if he'd be the one getting the blame. I feel like the players might take a lot of that at that point. But I guess with that said, I mean, do you think right now he's one of the great coaches in the league? Because I'm not sure about that.
I think that's hard to judge with coaching. I think in the NBA more than any other sport, because it really is a talent league. Yeah, you're gonna have X's and O's, and if you look at like the Brad Stevens era of coaching, he got more than enough out of his players. Like his coaching, his ATOs that he had were brilliant, but we just didn't have the talent to compete once you got to the highest level. So at the end of the day, it is the talent more than the coaching. But the coaching is, a leadership role, empowering the players and like having the, making the right calls, the right timeouts. But I don't think, I mean, right now, I think probably most people would put him in top 10, but like prior to last season, people wanted him to go. And if like, God forbid they went out in the first or second round this year, that would have been the obvious choice. Would have been like, okay, I mean, even if it wasn't warranted, would be like, okay, well, we got to replace the coach. But I think he's sold himself here, and I think he's here for the long term.
Yeah, I agree. The only other thing, there's a lot of chatter about, people call it Mazzulla ball, hucking up threes all over the place, and advanced metrics and expected numbers in the game plan. And I do see how that could be perceived as kind of a negative thing in some ways. But this is also the way that all sports are going. These advanced metrics are kind of taking over, and it started in baseball with the Oakland A's way back in the day with Billy Bean, rest in peace to him, by the way. I didn't even know he was sick, so that was tough. And Bill James, and even Bill James has walked it back a little bit in recent years and said, like, I just wanted to get guys on base, but I mean, this is a whole side topic. But as far as the advanced metrics goes, like the basketball honestly is pretty straightforward. Like 3-pointers are worth more, and they are a more efficient shot, provided that you have good shooters. So I like that they're using that to their advantage, and I just don't want to see them get too caught up in that, I guess is where I'm going with this. I think there should still be real thought about the situation, the score, the players on the court, pressure, that kind of thing. But I do think they're balancing that well, at least as far as I can tell.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, 3 is worth more than 2. You have to have the personnel to be able to do it. If you don't have a 3-point shooting team, it's just not going to work. Like you look at, the Heat series, that one game that we lost to them, where they had an out-of-body shooting experience on a team that doesn't have shooters. And then that game, they were just pretty much giving us 2s and taking away the 3s. Like, it just happens like that. But over the course of a season, over the course of a series, if you have the personnel and like you continue at it, as long as you're getting the best looks from 3, you're not just jacking up 3s to jack up 3s. Like you're making the right reads, the right passes, like creating open looks, the right situations. Then I think it is the right shot for the team. And I like that Mazzulla has empowered them to do that. Like, at the end of the day, sometimes some nights the shots just don't drop. Some games you're gonna lose. You're gonna have those games where you shoot, 6 of 30 from 3, like it happens. But the team's just so talented, and they play the other end of the floor as well, where they're gonna be in every game. Like it's few and far between that they're gonna get blown out. So, and the 3-point, is a great equalizer that can bring you back into a game, can extend a game. So I think we have the right personnel. And like I said, even just going down to the extensions, like keeping a guy like Sam Hauser, looking at our rookie Baylor coming in this year, it's like they're just doubling down on this. Like this is the system, and they get the players that fit the system.
Yeah, I love the Shireman pick. I'm a Providence basketball fan, so I've watched a lot of Big East basketball, and I remember watching him at Creighton a lot. And even before that, I think he was at South Dakota State in the tournament when they made a pretty deep run. That kid shoots the lights out, and it's like pull-ups too. It's not just catch and shoot. He'll pull up from deep, and it's pretty cool to watch. The other thing that I was going to bring up, and you mentioned the extensions there, we can dive into, Tatum and White and Hauser and even Drew Holiday, who they extended before the playoffs. These guys now are all locked down. I think all of them at least through 2028, and I can go through it right here. So Tatum obviously just signed this huge extension. It's his designated rookie extension. Well, he's still on his designated rookie extension through this year, and he's playing at just short of $35 million. Then the extension kicks in next year through 2029, and then he's got a player option for 29 and 30, and he's playing at average annual of just under $63 million. I mean, that's a huge contract, but you have to pay him. Derek White, kind of the same situation. He's coming off the same rookie extension contract that Tatum is on. He'll play this year at $20 million. Then his extension kicks in through 2028, and he also has a player option for 28-29. And he's just under $30 million a year on that contract.
Which is a big bargain in this market.
It is. It is, especially so. White amazes me because he seems to continue getting better. Like, I thought this guy had a ceiling, and every time I watch, I'm like, he's doing even more correct than I thought he could do before. He baffles me because he almost never makes the wrong play.
No, he's unselfish. He doesn't have an ego. But what you can see is confidence just consistently build from the time he arrived in Boston, season by season, almost like month by month, series by series. Like, you almost trust him to take that last shot more than anybody on the team. Like, he just looks ready for it, but he's not like, ISO everybody, get out of the way. Like, he plays in the role of the team. He's just ready to do the right thing. On the other end, like, he's the one doing chase down blocks as a guard. Like, he's just like the everything type of player. Like, we're so happy to have him here. And then, on top of him, to have a guy like Drew Holiday right next to him, like, if you look at all the contracts, yeah, Porzingis only has 2 more years. Like, his extension starts this year as a 2-year extension. But like every contract on the team, I mean, you don't want to trade it, but if you needed to, you could trade it. Like, there's no real bad contracts. Maybe the last year or two of Drew Holiday, if he, regresses as a player at all. But like, you want Drew Holiday, and like, you pay what it takes to get him. And I think it's a fair contract, especially for the next like 2+ years, where you're like immediate title contenders, where you're the favorite. So there's no bad contracts on this team. And like I said, I think all the removable, we have all of our picks going forward, except for, I believe, 28 and 29. 28 is a swap, and then 29. But yes, I mean, we're still loaded. Like, we could always, pivot if we needed to.
Yeah. Drew, I think, so you brought up Drew. He's the only one that, even in a small way, scares me just because of his age. But he's also, so his contract, he's right now re-signed through 27-28 for $33.6 million. And what's interesting to me is he took almost the exact same deal that he had signed with the Bucks, minus about $500,000. So he's taking a small pay cut to be here compared to his last contract. I know he's going to be like 37 by the end of that deal or something like that. So I guess that makes a little bit of sense. But like you said, if he's the key piece like he has been, or he's a key piece to a championship like he already has been, and if they can keep winning, keep being in contention like that, I don't mind, paying a little bit extra on the back end if you have to. And we can get into some of the more nitty gritty on the salary cap stuff and the second apron and all that. We can do that in future episodes, especially, leading into the season. If we want to talk about that stuff, we can dive into that too. The only other extension that we haven't talked about is Hauser. So his team option, I think, was picked up for this year at $2.1 million, which is like a funny number to me because it's nothing. And then he's extended through 28-29 for $11.25 million. So he's around too. I mean, everybody is locked down.
Yeah, and that's another contract that's like easily movable. I think he could have gotten more out of the market. Like a shooter like that in today's NBA, where there's such an emphasis on the 3-point shot, that's a contract that you could either flip down the road if you needed to. If you wanted to either get to have less of a tax burden, or if you wanted to, go in a different direction. Like, let's say Shireman really, builds himself up and he's a cheaper contract at that point. Maybe you have a different area need you want to swing him for, but like, he proved himself. Like, he hit some clutch shots. Like in the finals, like I remember in Game 5, like he's just been a great shooter for us. And like I said, his confidence keeps growing as well. Like, we just have a deep unit, and just having everybody sign, like, the continuity. I think it's amazing for this team. And I think it's, like I said, $2 million for this upcoming season is great. But like going forward, I'm comfortable paying him $11 million. Like you look at Pritchard's getting like $6 or $7 million a year. Like those are contracts. Those are steals. Like I remember when we first re-signed Pritchard to that contract, people were like, well, what dirt does Pritchard have in this organization that he's getting that type of contract? And like he played a huge role for us.
Yeah,
I feel very confident in his ability.
Yeah, no doubt. Me too. And with the Hauser thing, like you said, Shireman is almost kind of an insurance policy on him, because Hauser did have that stretch in the playoffs where I think he was like 1 for 14 from 3. And obviously he bounced back a little bit in the finals, which was great. But if that continues to be a problem, or if he slides back, or if he isn't as good on defense as they're hoping he will be, like he's a guy they can move off of and it won't be a big deal because maybe they'll have Shireman coming up, or his money's not too big. So that's good stuff to keep in mind too. So let's see. I guess now that the Olympics have been going on, obviously we just saw a crazy game between the U.S. and Serbia. First of all, were you watching that?
Yeah, I was watching that whole game. I put it on a few minutes into it, and the U.S. was down, and then the lead just kept expanding. Serbians were shooting like the Heat in game 2 of the first round. Like they just couldn't miss. And like they were just trapping Jokic every time he get the ball. And so they were leaving shooters open. And then you have guys like Bogdanovic that were just lights out. And I forgot some of the other names of the players, but
Yeah,
they were shooting lights out. And then to our guy, Tatum, like, I don't know what Steve Kerr's deal is with Tatum. Like what they needed was perimeter defense. They needed guys that could create offense. And you have Jason Tatum there. Like he's universally a top 10 player in the world, like borderline top 5. And to just leave him sitting on the bench now for the second time, like, I don't know what his personal issue is with Tatum. I know Tatum's going to go hard at the Warriors next year. So, I'd say almost thank you to Steve Kerr, because after a championship, after all the nonsense being talked about Tatum and the way he dragged his name through the media, you may think, okay, like, he's fat and happy, so to speak, right now, and he's not going to have that motivation. He's going to have that motivation next year as well. Jaylen Brown's going to have it for being left off the team and kind of like the issues he was getting into with Team USA. So in a year that you win the championship, they're going to have all the motivation coming back next year. So I thank Team USA for that. But as far as the game itself, Steph Curry was amazing. His shooting ability. I did not expect that game to be like that. Like they really looked like they were in danger of losing in the fourth quarter. And then they just went an unbelievable run. And, Embiid got hot down the stretch as well. But they definitely got a scare put into them. We'll see how they do against France in the finals.
Yeah. I think they were down as much as 14 at one point. That was if they lost that game and Tatum was on the bench the entire time, I think Steve Kerr was going to have to swim home. Like they were not going to let him on the plane. That was, you're right. I don't have an explanation for that. It doesn't.
I've never been a fan of Steve Kerr either. I think he's a product of having great players on his team.
Yeah, absolutely. With Tatum though, so he's first team All NBA, right? That makes him a top 5 player.
3 straight years.
That makes him a top 5 player in the NBA. The NBA includes players from all over the world. So
right.
He's a top 5 player in that league. How is he not even playing for the U.S. Olympic team? That doesn't add up to me. It just doesn't.
Booker and Bam Adebayo are getting major minutes for that team, but Tatum can't see the floor.
So Booker, I guess, has been fine. I won't pretend to have watched every minute of every game in the Olympics, but people were telling me I gave Booker a little bit of shade earlier because I was like, I don't think he deserves to be starting, and people kind of came at me for that because I guess he led the team in scoring the game before, but I still don't think he should have been starting. Like just because he scored a lot the last game, that doesn't mean he should be starting in this game. Anyway. I like their chances.
Edwards getting the amount of minutes that he got was crazy too, because he did not play well today.
No, he didn't, and I think a little bit of the shine is coming off him just a tiny bit in the Olympics. I think people might be realizing, okay, this kid is still, what is he, 22, 23? Like he's still got a ways to go. But I actually like the U.S.'s chances against France better than against Serbia. Jokic is an animal. Like you have to cover him so many different ways. You have to game plan for him in so many different ways that it leaves all kinds of people open. And you've got these Serbian guys, Bogdanovic, you expect that from because he's a really good shooter. The other guys, I don't know if anybody, I've never heard of any of those guys, but if you leave a professional basketball player on the FIBA stage wide open in the corner, they're probably going to knock it down. But that's what Jokic commands on the defensive end because he's just that good. The thing I think that we were going to talk about too with the Olympics, like, do you have any concern over Tatum and Drew and Derek White? Well, I guess with Tatum, he's missed 2 games, so it's not as much of a concern for him. But do you have any concern over any kind of stamina issues or fatigue going into the regular season or anything like that?
For someone like Derek White, who always plays, always wants to play, I'd say no. I mean, for all the guys in general, it's a long season. I mean, there's some people that, their seasons ended in early April. On top of that, they may have been just sat down by their team or barely even playing up until that point. And then they don't really start until like middle of September to ramp it back up. So you have a long off season. We're playing until late June. Then you have the parade. Then you immediately start getting ready for Team USA. And then you add Derek White to that as well. And now we're looking at when's the last game? Is it Saturday or Sunday? It's this weekend. It's the final game. You're already looking at you're going into mid-August when in less than a month, you're going to go over, you're going to have media day, you're going to start practices, you're going to have preseason games. So you just aren't going to have the rest. So what Mazzulla's big thing this year is going to be just managing minutes. I know Tatum always wants to play. A guy like Drew Holiday, who's older, I think you want to manage. And that's where it's really important for, a Peyton Pritchard to be able to step up even further this year, to be able to get a lot out of Hauser. Because I know Tatum's going to want to play 82 games, 45 minutes a game. They're not going to be able to do that. So you're going to have to make them sit. Obviously, they're going to hit their 65 to be able to be eligible for the postseason awards. But yeah, it's managing minutes is going to be the big thing. And then on top of that, you have Porzingis, who the first, month, maybe 2 months, however long it is. I think with him, you don't rush him back. If he's ready in December, play him in January. You need him for the playoffs. Look at what we did this postseason. Mostly without Porzingis. So imagine having Porzingis, especially at full health. So as long as he needs to ramp up, and then with Horford, you don't want to overdo his minutes either because you want to get the most out of him this season and mostly, more importantly in the playoffs. So that's where it's you're going to need a lot out of Kata, this season. You're going to need a lot out of, Luke. The big men that we have are going to have to step up. So managing minutes is going to be a big thing. So in that aspect, I'm not really sad to see Tatum sit because, it's less wear and tear on his body, less chance of injury. But, as a fan of the Celtics and of Team USA, you want the best product on the floor. I can't justify it to me having, Tatum. One thing not to start, but not to play, 2 different games. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I'm with you. You said a lot of what I was going to say about Tatum too. You probably can rely on Jaylen Brown a lot too for the early part of the season. Reduce Tatum's minutes, like you said. I know Tatum hates taking nights off, but if I'm Joe Mazzulla or Brad Stevens, I'm just telling him, look, this is a special case. This only happens every 4 years. We need you in May and June. I need you to play a few less minutes for a while. And then with Porzingis, so he had surgery on his ankle injury in late June. The report at the time was that he would be out for 5 to 6 months. Like you said, I'd be fine with it, even if he's out longer than that. If he wants to come back after the All-Star break, that's perfectly fine with me because I see absolutely no reason to rush it, especially for a big guy like he is. This particular injury is to the ankle, but just in general, the lower body stuff scares me for big guys. Especially if it approaches having anything to do with the calf. And I know he had that calf strain too at one point. And he's had issues with that in the past, just soreness. I just don't want it to turn into an Achilles thing because that would be devastating. And that could kind of be it. So I want to avoid that at all costs. I would keep him out as long as possible. And you can ride Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday and Derek White and Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser and Luke Cornett if you have to. It'll be fine. The team's good enough that they can easily, cruise. They could cruise to the 4 or 5 seed without trying in the East. So
seeding to me, especially now that we've won the championship and we've clearly, look at our road record. Our first road loss of the entire postseason was in Game 4 of the finals. So it doesn't matter. The seed doesn't matter. Obviously you don't want to end up in the 7th or 8th seed, which I don't think they can do. I think they would take catastrophic injuries for them to even get to that point. But I think whether we're the 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, whatever, it doesn't really matter. What matters is having a team that's healthy and ready and injury free come the postseason. So I would rather be 3 and have Porzingis ready to go, all the guys ready to go, than fighting back claw to be number 1, but everybody's banged up and fatigued, especially with the shortened offseason for us. So however you have to manage the minutes, maybe Shireman does get more of a look this year due to that. If you're going to be managing minutes more, you're going to have definitely, like I said, Keita, Luke Cornett, Tillman are going to play a lot at the big roles. I need a lot out of Pritchard this year. So that's going to be Joe Mazzulla's biggest thing this year. And then obviously it's going to go up from there. Brad Stevens, just managing, minutes on the team and avoid fatigue, to have everybody ready to go for the playoffs, because we're going back to back, and that's all that matters. I don't care if we win 50 games in the regular season. I don't think we're going to come close to what we did last year. And I think there's going to be some losses in this season that people are going to make wild reactions and takes to that don't matter. I mean, that's always been the case, but especially now, we're going to lose some game
right?
to some shit team in January. And that's going to be the talk on First Take the next day. This is why the Celtics are not going back to back. And it doesn't matter, because we've done it and we know we can do it. This is the same team. It's going to be the same team, barring something unforeseen. So just have everybody ready to go come playoff time.
Yeah. And with this being an Olympic year, there are a bunch of other stars around the league that are also coming off playing in the Olympics. I mean, Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, Halliburton's not really playing, but he's on the team. Durant, Steph, all these guys, and even guys playing for other countries, they're going to be kind of tired too. So every team that has one of these guys is going to have to be kind of managing that. So it could just be kind of one of those years where the regular season might be a little bit more competitive because a lot of those guys haven't had as much time off in the offseason. But I really wouldn't worry about it. I guess the guys that will be rested are guys like Paul George is now in Philly in the East, Jimmy Butler, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, all the Knicks guys. None of those guys are out there with the U.S. team. And I know we'll get into the state of the Eastern Conference in future shows leading into the season too, so we can get into all that later. But I mean, that's kind of where I'm feeling right now. I'm not too worried about the regular season at this point. I feel like they're going to be good enough.
Yeah. And like I said, all these other teams, they don't have 3 players that are on Team USA, and they didn't play until late June. So there's that disadvantage, but I also feel like we were deeper than everyone anyways. Granted, we're not going to have Porzingis for the start of the season, but like I said, I'm not concerned. People are going to do what they do on Twitter or on, the media analysts when the Celtics lose a game that they shouldn't lose. Like, they don't need to win 65 games. Like, they just need to be well-positioned come playoff time, whether they're the 1st seed, 4th seed, whatever it is. Because like I said, if we're healthy come playoff time, I'll take us over anybody.
Yeah.
I've seen it,
I'm with you. You're right. And I mean, they've gotten over the hump now, right? Where in the past it was always, well, they can't do it. They keep making the conference finals and they can't get past that. And that's gone. It's all out the window.
Yeah. And then you get the, opening night. The schedule should hopefully be out in the next week or two. Even before that, they're going to have the opening night and the Christmas schedule come out. So I'm interested to see who the opponent is, but getting to see the guys, raise up banner 18, the 2024 champions into the rafters at the start of the season. Then the feeling, like Tatum talked about, like the parade was the best feeling he ever had. Like the feeling you have of getting over the hump finally, it makes you want to chase that again. And now I think they're going to be playing loose. I think Tatum, like I said, they're still going to have motivation that got added this summer, but he's going to be playing loose because now he doesn't have the championship that he doesn't have hanging over him, which was a ridiculous take for how young he was and how much he had already accomplished. But I mean, like I said, if we're healthy and we can pace ourselves going into the postseason, like I'll take us over anybody in the NBA, regardless of whatever roster moves the other teams have made or will make.
I totally agree. And I know we've got a lot of stuff that we will get into before the start of the season, because we've got some time between now and then. It'll be late October when the actual regular season starts. Preseason will be the beginning of that month. At some point we'll talk about the team eventually being sold. I'm sure we'll talk more about Kristaps. I'm sure we'll talk more about just the salary cap implications and all that stuff like I talked about before. But I feel like we just kind of wanted to get a quick introductory episode on the books here with a new chapter of the podcast with me coming in. So I know that we're going to have a lot more to talk about in the future, but is there anything else you wanted to talk about here today?
I just love how I can just go on YouTube and then watch the Celtics highlights of winning the championship. It's like a long time coming, you know, like for you, first one in your adult life, for me, first one in 16 years. Like, it's just any single time I think about it, like they're the champions, you know, wake up every single morning. If you go onto the NBA page and you go to scores, that score has been up from game 5 the entire summer. Like, I love it. You know, once you get to the preseason games, it's not going to be there anymore. Then in the chapter, you know, it really turns the page. But it's just gratifying to be the champions. You know, look at my closet. It's like, oh, look at the shirt says. Like, it means a lot, and I'm ready to run it back and start over again. Like, I'm ready for more basketball now. Like, I like, you know, basking in the glory of being the champions, but you know, it's almost time for another go at it. You know, there's no reason this team can't win it again.
It's on to the next one now. You know, I don't want these. I'm sure they won't, because like you said, they're going to have plenty of motivation with everything that's gone on this offseason. But I just don't want these guys to get complacent. Like, I want to see them come back with fire and try to beat teams as badly as they did last year. I mean, how many times last year did they beat somebody by 20, by 30, by 40, by 50? Like, that was a crazy season. I don't expect them to repeat that, but I mean, the championship I do, but as far as the level of dominance, I don't expect to see that again. I also I don't think people fully appreciate exactly how dominant they were. I know that people say that they had a super easy run through the playoffs, and I get it. There were a lot of guys that were hurt, and
Including Porzingis.
well, right. But it doesn't matter. Like, all those guys could have played. It really doesn't matter. The Celtics were going to win every single one of those series. It did not matter who they played. They were going to win at least the East.
They were the most dominant team all year. They had a historical net rating. It's funny because when people look back on it, it's the same Mickey Mouse drum, but the people were talking themselves into the other team winning each series, and then pretty much universally agreed by Celtics hating Twitter and the media that they were going to lose to Dallas because now they're playing a real team. You had talking heads like Nick Wright, Stephen A. Smith, who had picked the Celtics all year, and then somehow the sweep against Indiana proved that they weren't ready for the big moment. And, you know, Shaq, all of them, and then just to see the Celtics just dominate them, and then everyone reverts back to, well, the Mickey Mouse run, everybody hurt. So I guess we just got to do it again, right?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it for sure. So, I mean, this has been great, and we will obviously be back with more. I think the plan was, once the season starts, I think we'll do this once a week. Is that right?
Yeah, do it once a week. I think because the Celtics for 100% are going to be playing opening night and on Christmas. So assuming those are released within a day or two of each other, we can come on, we can discuss the matchups, the games, and then shortly after the schedule be released, and then we'll definitely have a show for that. So we may come on once a week or once every 2 weeks leading up to like training camp and preseason. But once the season gets going, we'll be back on air every week.
Sweet. I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be a great year, and hopefully we'll see another banner being raised next year. So
now that goes from banner 18 to banner 19. I got to get that into my vocabulary.
Yeah. When I started my my Twitter account, I was like, all about banner 18, all that stuff. And I was 18 loading, and now I had to change it because we got one. So I'm like, I wasn't really prepared for that. I hope nobody steals my handle for next time if we get another one, but I guess we'll see.
You got to check on 20 loading for next summer.
Yeah, I know. I might have to reserve it now.
But okay, so that's going to do it for another episode of Dynasty Proud. Thanks for having you guys here. Welcome to the show, Ryan, and we will see you on the next one.
Peace.